Welcome to the Pencil Bob channel. I hope you enjoy the story. Remember to like and subscribe. And now the story.
From 2016 to 2023, I owned a townhome in an HOA. I had the upstairs unit and a downstairs neighbor from hell.
All units were 2-bedroom and 2 bathrooms with attached garage.
Since I was upstairs, my master bedroom was over my downstairs neighbor's garage. My second bedroom was over my garage.
In 2021, I wanted to tear out the worn carpet in the bedrooms and replace it with wood floors to match the kitchen, living room, which came with wood floors when I bought the place brand new. I reviewed the CCRs, which stated any floor renovations over livable areas must seek out HOA approval. I thought, great. The bedrooms are over garages, which aren't livable areas, so I don't need approval. Had the floors changed?
My downstairs neighbor was a heavy complainer.
He'd complain to the HOA about everything.
For example, I received 3 complaints in 2 months for running my dishwasher at night. Apparently, he could hear the water in the pipes and felt I was not allowed to do so. He complained about me coming home at 2 a.m., saying my garage door woke him up.
Stupid things like that.
After a dozen complaints, I got called up in front of the board to do that whole song and dance. I let it slip that I changed flooring on accident, which got them all wrapped up. I had my lawyer respond to them, stating my bedrooms are over unlivable spaces and thus don't meet the requirement for approval in the CCRs, and even sent them the floor plan.
The problem went away. Early 2023, I decided to sell the place. The buyer received the HOA report, which didn't mention flooring issue.
Place sold.
All was well until about 6 months later.
I received certified mail from the new owner's attorney stating I failed to mention my unauthorized flooring, and since the downstairs neighbor was constantly complaining about noise, I was being asked to pay for new flooring to meet HOA rules or risk being sued. Had my attorney respond, and both parties, myself and new homeowner, agreed to meet to discuss this. We both had our attorneys present. My attorney went over the fact that any pre-existing HOA issues would have been documented in the buyer's report provided by the HOA. The floors were not documented. The homeowner's attorney agreed. Homeowner was upset, but agreed, and that was the last I heard of it until about 5 weeks ago.
I ran into the homeowner while out running errands.
I asked him what came of the flooring.
He stated his attorney turned on the HOA, who lost the court battle and was forced to pay for new flooring.
He ended up getting about $10,000 of work done on the HOA's dime. The best part is, when the downstairs neighbor heard this, he sent his attorney after the HOA, claiming their negligence caused him emotional distress, since they allowed a renovation to happen that impacted his sleep and ability to work from home. The HOA lost that court battle as well, and had to pay him almost $80,000 in.
Apparently the HOA is now in debt and is being forced to raise dues almost 200% to meet the requirements the county requires of them.
Gotta love it when HOAs get shit on. My garage shares a wall with my neighbor's garage, separated by only about a meter.
The tricky part is that beyond our garage doors lies property belonging to the homeowners association.
Now, here's the rub. My neighbor, let's call her Mrs. Karen, not her real name, but that fits, has this habit of placing her trash bin smack dab in the narrow space between our garage doors. You see, Mrs. Karen has a single car parked in her garage, leaving ample room on the other side of her garage door for her trash cans. But no, they end up right in front of my garage door, creating a frustrating obstacle course for me every time I need to leave. Every time I jump into my car, excited to get going, I'm faced with this frustrating obstacle course. Mrs. Karen's trash cans are always right there, blocking my way. I end up having to twist and turn my car in this weird 2-step dance just to get out of my own garage. It's not just annoying, it's downright aggravating.
It's like a daily dose of irritation that I could really do without.
I tried talking to her about it, politely asking her to please relocate her trash bins to the other side of her garage door. But alas, our requests have fallen on deaf ears.
In fact, we've even caught her in the act, pushing those pesky bins right in front of our garage door, despite our previous conversations.
I was so fed up and couldn't take it anymore. So I mustered up all my courage and went to talk to Mrs. Karen about her trash bin problem.
I even brought along some pictures I took to prove my point.
It was a sunny afternoon when I finally decided to confront her about it.
Her response?
Well, let's just say it wasn't exactly neighborly.
Instead of acknowledging her actions or attempting to find a solution, Mrs. Karen responded with snide remarks and personal insults.
She even had the audacity to mock my aspirations for the future, as if that had anything to do with the trash bin situation. Feeling both exasperated and a bit hurt by her response, I retreated back to my own garage, pondering my next course of action. It seemed clear that reasoning with Mrs. Karen was a lost cause, but I refused to let her inconsiderate behavior continue unchecked. I was dead set on fixing this mess, so I called up the people in charge, the HOA, and I told them all about with Mrs. Karen and how she kept breaking the rules.
I even showed them the pictures I had. Luckily, they listened to me and promised to do something about it. It felt good knowing that someone was finally taking me seriously. Then, a few days later, everyone in the neighborhood got a letter reminding them about where to put their trash bins and what would happen if they didn't follow the rules. It was like a light bulb went off in Mrs. Karen's head, because suddenly her trash cans were in the right spot, away from my garage door. It was a relief to see things finally falling into place.
Finally, with the garbage bin mess sorted out, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders.
It wasn't easy, and I had to keep at it for a while, but eventually things worked out. It just goes to show, sometimes you gotta stick to your guns and wait it out for things to make sense. Things between Mrs. Karen and me took a turn for the worse. She seemed to be even more confrontational than before. But oddly enough, after the trash bin debacle, our interactions became even more tense.
Maybe she was doubling down on her bad behavior, refusing to admit any fault. Or perhaps she was just looking for someone to blame for her own mistakes. Either way, it was clear that the situation wasn't improving anytime soon. Either way, I learned an important lesson from the whole ordeal. Sometimes standing up for what's right means not backing down, even when faced with opposition. And in the end, it's worth it to fight and not have less peace and harmony in the neighborhood.
So let me tell you about this letter I got from the HOA. You know, those folks who run the neighborhood? Yeah, them.
Well, they sent me this letter, and boy, was it a doozy. They were all riled up, saying they wanted me to give the boot to my tenant's family.
Can you believe it? And the reason?
They pointed fingers at my tenant's teenager, saying he's been causing a ruckus around the block. I mean, talk about shocking news. It hit me like a ton of bricks right on my front porch that led me to kick out my tenant's family.
And get this, they blamed the tenant's teenager for wrecking stuff around the neighborhood. It was like a bomb dropped on my porch. Alright, let me lay it out for you. So you got these tenants of mine, right? They're solid folks, been renting from me for a good while.
Never caused a peep of trouble, always paid up their rent like clockwork. But then, out of the blue, here comes this accusation about their kid.
I mean, seriously. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Didn't make a lick of sense, let me tell ya.
So here's the deal. The HOA, they're saying there's damage to the community stuff, right? But they ain't got nothing to back it up. No pictures, no reports from the cops, zilch. It's like they're playing a game of he said, she said, with no winners in sight. I mean, seriously. You'd think they'd come prepared with some solid evidence, but nope.
It's like watching one of them cheesy court dramas on TV, where the evidence is about as flimsy as a wet paper bag. So, there I was scratching my head, feeling like I'm stuck in a maze without a map. I never been in a fix like this before, let me tell you.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces.
And to top it all off, the HOA's pointing fingers at me, expecting me to cough up the dough for repairs. Like I'm sitting on a gold mine or something.
It's enough to make a person want to throw their hands up in frustration.
But here's the kicker. Me and the tenant, we're tight. We've always had an open line of communication.
So I called him up, told him about the letter.
And you know what? They were just as flabbergasted as I was.
We agreed right then and there to fight these accusations tooth and nail. Now here's where it gets real hairy. The HOA, they're treating me like I'm the ringmaster of this circus. Like it's all on me to sort this mess out.
But I ain't no lawyer. I'm just a regular Joe trying to make ends meet. I spent hours on the phone trying to wrangle with the HOA folks.
It was like talking to a brick wall. They wouldn't budge an inch.
But me?
I'm as stubborn as an old mule.
I wasn't about to let them steamroll me or my tenant. So I did what any self-respecting person would do. I started digging. I called up neighbors, asked them if they'd seen anything fishy. Most of them shrugged, said they hadn't noticed a thing. But one fella, bless his heart, said he saw the whole thing.
According to him, it wasn't my tenant's kid causing the ruckus. It was some other teenager from down the block. Talk about a plot twist. Armed with this newfound info, I felt like Sherlock Holmes on the case.
I gathered up all the evidence I could muster, witness statements, character references for my tenant's kid, you name it. I was ready to take on the HOA like David facing down Goliath.
Finally, after what felt like an eternity of back and forth, the HOA agreed to sit down and hash things out.
I was sweating bullets, let me tell ya.
But you know what? Justice prevailed. Turns out they'd jumped the gun. The real culprit fessed up, and my tenant's family was off the hook.
It was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I reckon I could have danced a jig right then and there. Looking back on it now, it feels like something out of a movie.
But let me tell ya, it was as real as the sun shining in the sky.
And you know what they say, truth is stranger than fiction. So there you have it. The tale of how I went toe-to-toe with the HOA and lived to tell the tale.
It ain't every day you find yourself in a situation like that.
But hey, it's just another chapter in the book of life. And me? I'm ready for whatever comes next.
Bring it on, world. I live in a townhome-style condo complex.
Obviously, we have an HOA. I'm not big on HOAs, but admittedly, I do feel like it makes sense for a condo where there's a lot of common space.
Thankfully, my HOA is pretty chill. They have rules but do very little enforcement and mostly leave everyone alone.
But I still felt compelled to mess with them yesterday.
I live in the Northeast, and we got a lot of snow yesterday. HOA has a vendor that handles the snow removal.
Well, yesterday I went out to walk my dog and discovered that the vendor didn't put down any sand or salt after plowing. There was a ton of black ice patches across the complex. I was super careful while walking and wearing appropriate snow boots, but I still slipped and ate shit on the way back into my unit. Thankfully, I wasn't really hurt. I scraped up one of my knuckles as well as a knee. Not enough to seek medical attention or sue over. But I immediately sent an email to the HOA, telling them that there was an ice hazard in the complex.
And I intentionally was vague, saying I slipped and injured myself.
I knew that would have them thinking lawsuit. Sure enough, even though it was well after office hours, I got an email back from the complex manager almost immediately.
She asked if I was hurt, where I slipped, etc.
Then, even better, about half an hour later I hear a truck outside. They sent someone out at 10 p.m. to salt the complex.
Because of me? I have never felt so powerful. This morning I spoke to the complex manager on the phone.
It was a very cover-your-ass call where she assured me they had salted and to let her know if I needed medical attention. I could smell the fear. Side note, they know I work in the legal industry, so that might have played a role in it as well. I would by no means be afraid to sue if I needed to. Anyway, it's not all that crazy or dramatic, but I thought you all might appreciate my little story.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.